So without further ado, let us start the conversation. Lishia, I am very sure our participants are interested to hear from you how you got into the business and what or who inspired you to do so. Lishia?
Yeah, hi TJ. Hi everyone. Thanks for joining today. I got into the business because I was roped in actually by another female entrepreneur. So for many years, I think over a decade, I've been working with large companies and organizations. And at that time, my work was actually building companies within companies. But in my head, it was like, okay, I'm working for another company. I was not the leading entrepreneur. But then my good friend Karen Teal, at the time, she started a blockchain company, and she said, hey, why don't you start leading your own company? And I thought, well, really? Can I really do that? And she was like, don't be ridiculous. You've been building companies throughout your whole career. So she said, and then just have a look at it and look at what you've been doing. And at the time I was still in Hong Kong. And I've been looking at how the SMEs in different markets are trying to get into the digital transformation, renewing their businesses. And when I looked into the Indonesian landscape, and I thought, well, actually, some of these businesses can really benefit from better visibility over their supply chains. And actually, supply chain finance in Indonesia is still a fairly new concept. And while everywhere else in Europe and in America, supply chain finance is being used to finance trades for SMEs, in Indonesia, it's still fairly new. Not many people know how to use it. And that's how I started looking into the companies that work in this space. So then the opportunity presented itself, and there was a company called ASYX that's set up maybe about 11 years ago. So then I looked at it, and then the team, they were bought over by a new pool of investors, and then they said, hey, here's your chance. Do you want to be the leading entrepreneur? And I was like, oh, okay. At first I was scared, but then Karen again told me, hey, you've been building companies, only this time you're not under a bigger group. You have to build this yourself and then run ASYX as you see fit. So I did. I stepped up, and that's how I started being in this position. And in your question about the inspiration, actually, a lot of my work now is also inspired by another female entrepreneur. She was the first female CEO for Unilever in Indonesia. And I had the chance to work with her in the past. And for her, it's all about impact. How do we then translate our own passion through our own work, and looking at the Indonesian landscape. SMEs are largely owned and run by women. So that's why I am where I am today.
Thank you very much, Lishia. I know embarking on this entrepreneurial journey is always one that is scary but exciting at the same time, isn't it? As you look beyond the pandemic, what do you think are important factors that are necessary to continue the support of the growth of women entrepreneurship? Yeah. Lishia?
Yeah, well, I think I agree. I mean, continuing on what Mel said, I mean, you have to think big, you have to start, and there are issues with track record in trade. We don't realize it, but actually what we're looking at is the movement of goods. The movement of the documentation of those goods becomes a track record, and then the movement of money, which becomes then the cash flow. And this applies not just during the pandemic. It gets highlighted during pandemic, but post the pandemic, what we're looking at are really this big wave of people going digital. I looked up the other day and I'm preparing for this actually, and even in 2020 alone, 40 million people came online. So that's a huge number of people. I mean, 40 billion people. So that means if they're moving online, then the markets for all the women entrepreneurs out there are also living now online. But then if you look at the country by country case, in Indonesia, it is the highest e-commerce adoption at 87%. So it's like almost the whole of the country has gone e-commerce. But the internet users have only reached 16%. So then there's still a lot of room on people getting online, the markets for women entrepreneurs going online. But then going on e-commerce, it's not just about the selling, as I think a lot of the speakers have also shown here. It is about the impact, it's about the backbone of the business. And that's why we also come up with Melati as one of our programs, which is to empower women entrepreneurs to not be afraid of different technologies, whether it's to obtain new knowledge, to be able to have that track record that Mel mentioned, and even technologies to access finance. Because now, in the past, you go to a bank, ask for financing, you bring like a whole pile of documents, but now it's all online, as I think Mel could also have see, and Penny as well, and Shanaz. Even finding financing beyond the pandemic has gone online as well. So it is important to have all these activities now moving online, and having women entrepreneurs being confident to navigate these digital solutions. So as important factors, I suppose it's building that capacity, building the confidence, and building access to all these different digital tools for us to build our businesses on. At the end of the day, again, if we look at like our bodies, we have the muscles, we have the shapes, but at the end of the day, we do need that oxygen. And for a business, cash flow is also the oxygen. So then we need a lot of people working together now online. So I guess those are relevant post-pandemic as well.
Thanks very much, Lishia. I caught a few things that you shared, one of which would be really the access to technology and access to finance, which thankfully I think has increased over the recent 18 to 24 months. And you also touched on a very important point, which is the willingness and the openness to continue to learn. To don't stop at status quo, but continue to learn, continue to grow, and to have that community, where you can, get advice, you can share advice, and you can just learn and pick up from each other. So thank you so much.